Greetings, everyone. Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the show. Today is kind of like a viewer's request topic, and I figure the right guy to join me in this episode is none other than Mr. Jamie Laszlo, the host of the Review Crew, also on Monsters Den and all sorts of other shows here on the channel. What's happening, my friend? How are you?
What's going on? How you doing? No banging
No banging at
on
the
lunch
moment.
break?
Yes, I'm in the latter stages of our roof getting new roof getting put in, and I totally apologize to everybody who has had to sit through the two morning shows the last 2 days with all sorts of noise and hammers and banging and things like that. I wasn't aware of how much that was actually going to get picked up by my microphone, but obviously a lot.
Yeah.
So,
We had to delay this show, the
so we
taping.
delayed this one for a couple hours. You guys are still seeing it when it's regularly going to be
And I was
scheduled.
thinking, Pete, Jamie's going to start opening beers.
I know.
So we need to start taping.
We need to start doing this quick, otherwise we'll have to wait till next weekend. I
Or
wanted to
you
do
could
it this
just get
weekend.
a tipsy Laszlo,
There
whatever.
you go. So this, and again, I forget exactly who requested this, but I do want to thank those one viewer specifically, but a couple others have mentioned it. They wanted to kind of know like what like newer bands, and Jamie and I decided new being since 2000 and on, bands who have started releasing new material post 2000. Which of these bands or what 10 bands would do we consider right now to be as beloved as some of the classic bands that we grew up with from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s, right? So what we both did was we went back and looked at some of the bands that we've been into in more recent years, specifically since 2000, and which of them do we now hold as dear, near and dear as, the Blue Oyster Cults and the, everybody else that we love so much from yesteryear. And so that's what we've done. So we've each picked out 10, and that doesn't mean that these are the only 10 bands we feel this way about, but you got to pick 10, right? I originally was pushing for more, and Jamie was kind of like, we should keep it at 10. I'm like, yeah, all right.
I do have a couple honorable mentions to throw
Yeah, I've
out
got I've
real quick.
got my list too as well. So and we're just gonna I think the main point of this is to not only just talk about who those 10 bands are, but why we feel this way. Why do we feel that their music is standing the test of time and will continue to do so? And like 10, 15, 20 years, hopefully if we're still on this earth, we're still listening to these bands alongside, for me, like the Black Sabbaths and the Purples and the UFOs and the BOCs and the Van Halens and everybody else, right? So yeah. So what do you say, Jamie? Should we do like two at a time? Is that
Sure.
okay? So start
All
us off.
right. Well, I got to thinking on this. What makes them a classic band being somewhat newer? I mean, I buy a lot of albums, right? And there are certain bands that I like. We all have them. If you have a very big collection like us, there's bands that you bring out the CD, you play it, you like it, you put it back. You may not play it again for a year, year and a half,
Or longer.
because you got so much.
Yeah, yeah.
Red Fang is a band like that. I like Red Fang. Saw them live. They had to cut it short because a storm was coming, so I saw 3 songs. Um, but I play it. Goes in the collection. So what separates the bands you like from the classic bands? And I think it's the fun you have, the stories. That's how they get woven into your DNA. Yeah, when we were kids, it was easier for the Ozzy Osbourne, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden to get into our DNA. We were young, we were having fun, we were with our buddies listening to those. We got the memories to hold on to, and that helps weave it into your DNA. Now, when you're like 54 and oh, I remember when I was vacuuming the couch to that album just last week. It's not the same. But some bands I have great memories of having fun. Since 2000, me and my wife have had a ton of fun, and it usually involves one of these 10 bands. So that's the angle I was taking. We've talked about out of these in my honorable mentions, you and I alone ranked 7 of these bands' catalogs. That's a lot. So you did the other ones, I think, like you did Gojira by yourself and stuff. Well, spoiler, that's coming up at number 9, anyways. But my number 10 is Graveyard, and this is when I came in. Uh, his singer blues, his singing blues. That's when I came in, and it was weird. I was like, it's heavy, but is it metal? It's so, you know, weird. It's stoner rock. But I saw them. Let's see. I saw them in 2015 with Mastodon and Clutch. That was the last time I took a hit of weed. And the time before that was like 2007. So I've given it up, but I'm sitting there. It's a nice day. I'm watching a stoner rock band at like, I don't know, 5 o'clock. Two guys are passing. I'm like, give me that damn thing. And I was dancing the Clutch when they were closing the show. Then I saw them in 2015 again with Earthless in a very small place. Earthless and Graveyard. What a fucking show. Then I saw him with Opeth in 2020, like a month before everything got shut down because of Opeth. I squeezed that show in.
I remember when you went to that show. I remember that.
Yes, I bought you an autograph CD, didn't I? And mailed it to you for
Yep.
Opeth. Yes. And they were great there. And that Opeth, oh my God, they were so good. And then the next day I woke up and I said, Grace, I'm gonna go down. They said that taco and tequila place from my hotel window. I said, I'm calling downstairs, staying another day, and going down there to drink all day. It was Valentine's Day, and I went down there without Grace. She was too hungover.
Oops.
Whatever. I've matured since 2020. So I got 2 T-shirts. I mean, these guys are great. Pete and I ranked their albums. I don't need to talk about all the albums again. They're stoner rock, but they're one of their posters when I went to go see them live. It was something like a new spin on classic rock or something like that. There's a cheapy one that came with one of the albums I bought. So if you like that kind of thing, and go see them live, they're really good live. Yeah, the new album's a little bit more mellow. That's what some of these bands do. They get more mellow, but go see them live. They still kick ass. Gojira is my second one. 2017 saw them at Rock on the Range, which is a big 3 to 4 day festival here in Columbus. 2017 saw them with Code Orange. Code Orange gets a lot of hype, but I don't know. And Torch, no longer together. They were so good. Saw them again at 2019 Sonic Temple Music Festival. One of the guys got caught on fire during that show and was playing on fire and had to be put out. And then 2016, it's very important to these bands, because I don't listen to music with buddies anymore, that my wife Grace likes them. That adds on to that. Now we're listening to them together, and she's replacing all those male buddies I used to have. So every once in a while, I do guy talk in front of her, like a girl comes on the TV. I'm like, oh, nice rack. Shit, I forgot. With the wife, Laszlo. With the wife, Laszlo. And so there's my one and only Gojira shirt that I got at Rock on the Range. And this album was the first like extreme metal album I could play with Grace, and she didn't hate it. It's barely extreme, but she loves the song Stranded. I've seen it with, every time I've seen Gojira, Grace was there right next to me, even during the hard stuff they were doing. She's into it. And what's the drummer's name? Mario Duplantier. Duplantier.
Yes.
Yes. I think he's the best active drummer in metal right now. You
Great.
may not agree, but it's hard to argue at the same time. He's up there. And this album, which I always just call the French album, is my favorite by them. So yeah, Gojira, man. Every time they release an album, that's another thing. When they release a new album, these 10 bands, you get that little excitement that you used to get when Metallica was releasing a new album, or you still might get when Maiden releases a new one. You get excited.
Or Opeth, right? For me, I get pretty.
Oh, Opeth is long due.
Yeah. They are. Maybe we'll get a Symphony X new album one of these days too. It's crazy. All right, so I don't know if mine are in any order. I didn't really put them in an order, but I'll stress when they're the really the top ones. I'm just gonna start with Gojira because I have the pile of CDs in front of me, and you were just talking about them. And yeah, I saw these guys very early on. In fact, I saw them on the Mars to Sirius tour, and they opened. God, they were like third on a bill, and I had never really listened to them before, and they just completely blew me away because their sound is like so unique, and they've got these really cool guitar riffs, and the way that he plays with all these weird little things he does, which I think is
That
really
little
cool.
scream.
Yeah,
Like
it's just like
the
these
end of the
little
riff.
trills that he does. Just really, really cool. And their music's got a lot of bottom end, and they're like just extreme enough, but they're not extreme metal.
Yeah.
And I think that like they're one of those bands like to me, I listen to a good amount of extreme metal, but I don't do it all the time and I have to be in a mood for it. But these guys are like they're just like what are they? They don't really fit neatly anywhere.
Prog, extreme, groove metal.
They're like a little bit of everything, and I love his vocals. I mean I think like the most recent album is really good. There's some really cool stuff on here. The stuff is moody, some of the stuff is fast, some of it's technical, some of it's a lot of it's groovy. They never disappoint in every album. I mean, I can make a case for just about any of their albums are close to being my favorites. Maybe the first couple are not quite as strong, but anything they've released, certainly since the album I spoke about, From Mars to Sirius, is top shelf stuff. I really like it a lot, and I can listen to them at any time. And like you mentioned, whenever a new Gojira record is set to hit, there's like this anticipation, like, oh,
There's a buzz in the air.
yeah, it's like where are they going to go next? So
Yes.
very cool stuff. So that's my first. Let's see. I'll just pick another pile. I'm going to go to Poland for my next band, and this is another group, just like Gojira, that I saw live fairly early on before they were much of a buzz band at all. And that band is Riverside. So again, and again, oddly enough, another band that like doesn't sit neatly anywhere because they're kind of a prog band. They're kind of prog metally at times. Sometimes they're like kind of Pink Floydy, atmospheric, space rocky, but they're very unique sounding. They don't really sound like anybody else. Their music is very emotional. They've got, a great singer in Marius Duda and really good arrangements and albums that are just so strong. I mean, I did a ranking with Stephen Reed a number of years ago, and both of us were just like, by the time we got done ranking this catalog, we were exhausted because, like, talking about this band and the emotional impact of their music is just like, it's just drains you, but it's a fun drain you type of thing. And all of these albums are just really good. Again, is it prog? Yeah. Is it, prog metal? Yeah, but the everything about them is just so different, and nobody sings like him. He's got this one of the most expressive voices, and they do the longer songs, they do the shorter songs. There's some stuff that's heavy, there's some stuff that's moody, there's some stuff that's proggy, some is kind of doomy and symphonic. It's like a little bit of everything. And their albums are really, really, really rewarding. And I remember like the first time that I saw them, they played at one of the first few Nearfest festivals. And I don't know, Jimmy, you probably heard us talk about Nearfest before. It's basically
Yeah.
this
Anytime.
yeah, right. And I went to like the first seven of them, and I remember they played at their first album that just come out, and for Nearfest, it's a pretty heavy band, and I remember like a lot of people in attendance were not digging them because they were new and they weren't an old '70s band, and they were kind of proggy but a little more prog metally. And I remember after their set, I'm like, this band is going to go places. When I'm talking to all these people who didn't really dig them, and
Yeah.
now looking at it all these years
Yeah.
later, now it's like they're deemed as one of the classic bands from this time period. So yeah, Riverside. That's my
Where
next.
was Nearfest?
Where was it? In Pennsylvania. All but two. Most of them were in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania,
Oh,
at
Beth.
one of the colleges there. But twice they had it in Trenton, New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah,
For me, that would be Farfest. Too far.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Um, my next one is not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. A couple of these bands I've never seen live, but I have like Laszlo traditions with these bands, so that kind of seeps into your DNA because you're doing things. I like to make up my own traditions, and this band, when I had the bar upstairs next to the kitchen, they had their tradition. It's harder to do it these days, but that is the only funeral doom band I ever liked, and boy, do I like them. I don't think Pete can get into them. They may be a little too slow. I know you like the album cover though, but Bell Witch,
Which yeah.
Mirror Reaper. Now this album is probably already considered a classic within the genre of doom and funeral doom. People like already hold this in high regards, but I went a long time on Saturdays drinking coffee out of my Bell Witch mug while listening to Bell Witch to start the day. And I'm talking like at 7 a.m. Sitting there with Sid, my cat at the time. And it was just a wonderful way to start because it's slow,
Yeah.
but it ain't the kind of slow music your mom's going to like. So, and there's a darkness to it. And while the sun's rising up and you're just drinking that coffee and you're listening to them, and you can, even their demo album is really cool. But yeah, you're not gonna, they are on the opposite end of like, Yingve is here on the South Pole and they are on the North, they cannot be further away. And the guy, I don't even think they have a guitarist. The guy plays bass and makes it sound like a guitar. So you just get a lot of boom. And when he starts going boom, 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 you're like, slow down. Whoa, going a little too fast. So yeah, and I even have like this cassette that's like, I think 50 were made, and I bought it because it wasn't on CD, and then I bought it, and a few months later they reissued it on CD. And I always wanted a Bell Witch Mirror Reaper T-shirt, but you just can't find one. Maybe at the time I dropped the ball, but I got the latest album, and it's pretty badass. So yeah, Bell Witch is number 8. Miss those mornings. It's just hard to come downstairs with coffee, take 2 sips. Oh, I need a refill. Go back up the steps, and I got no window to watch the sunrise. So yeah, it's
I've
better down here, but you lose a few things.
I've tried, because I know you speak so highly of them, and every couple of months I'm like, all right, let me give that another listen, and I do. And
Dong.
yeah, and I feel like I should be like, like some guy like from the movie Dune who's like lost all by himself out in the sand somewhere, and it's hot as all fuck, and you're in this suit, and you're like, you're gonna die soon, and all you hear is this music just kind of beating you down like the sun. I was like, oh, so I don't know. I've tried, and I'm with Funeral Doom. I love Doom. That's the weird thing. I
Yeah.
love Doom metal, but Funeral Doom is just like.
Stuck in the mud music.
Oh, it's just too slow. It's
When the
just
big clock, Big Ben rings, it's probably more faster paced than these guys.
I know.
Dong, dong. Whatever. I love them.
That's
Next one is you know what? There's a long history of death metal for what, 40 years, over 40 years. And I've been saying for a few years now, I don't care if they're new. I don't care. I came into the death metal scene late anyways, in the 2000 zeros anyways. So my favorite death metal band, so they have to be here because they're tops of a certain subgenre, is Horrendous. And I got this crazy little Horrendous t-shirt. I got this badass Horrendous t-shirt that I just love
that's pretty
with
cool.
the Idol album cover, and
Yeah.
the back has the front of the other t-shirt. Now these guys, I was supposed to see live after that Opeth show in 2020, and it was like right on, like COVID hit, and like, am I going to this show? Am I going to go to this show? Should I wear a mask? Am I going to go? Show canceled. It was right on the brink of when nobody knew what the fuck was going on. So, and they always said they're going to make it up. And they never did. But tickets went on sale yesterday. They're coming back. It's not a makeup show, but they're coming back with Tomb Mold, who I could take or give or take, whatever. But I'll sit there, and I got a ticket, so I will be seeing them this summer. They are. I was supposed to bring my wife to the first one. Now I'm pushing the limits. But these guys, they're death metal, but there's an airiness about the music. It's like death metal that's, you know what? Think of dark chocolate, and that's death metal. But then, that's chocolate and candy. And then think of it, Three Musketeers. It's also chocolate and candy, but it's puffed up.
Yeah.
That's what this is. It's like the Three Musketeers of death metal. It's just more airy and not as filling and easier to, you don't get too filled up on it when they play a lot of it. And they don't forget to do the guitar hero moments that make you go like this and everything. And they're proggy. If Death was still around, I think if they would have continued on into the 2000s, I think they would have started making albums like Horrendous is now, I think. So yeah, is that two? Did I do
Yep,
two?
you got it. All right. Where do I go next here? Oh, and just for the record, my wife hates all this stuff. So
Okay.
unlike you, I wish she would enjoy some of this, but what are you gonna do? All right,
Right.
let's go with well, they could be my favorite out of all these. If they're not, they're up there. I absolutely love this band since the first album, and I don't dislike female singers at all, but I generally don't have some of my favorite bands be bands with female singers. I don't know why. It's just, I'm more of a guy singer type of thing. That's the way I am. However, this band just totally does the world to me. And I think with every album that they put out, I like them even more. And I just have a hard time understanding why most of people out there who listen to rock music don't think this band is like the greatest thing since whatever.
Is it
And
their
that's
name? Yes.
Lucifer.
It would be their name.
It's
Yeah.
their name, right? Yeah. She, Johanna Sardanis, she's amazing. She's such a great singer. To me, it's almost like she's living in the wrong decade. I think if she was doing this sort of thing back in like 1968 or 69, this is a huge band. Again, the name of the band is, as I think, a hard stop for a lot of people, but it's not satanic music at all. It's this groovy, psychedelic, stonery doom metal type of thing. But even like it's not really even doom anymore. It's like
Close to heart at times.
at times, yeah, for sure. It's just really good. I don't know. I don't. It's just rock music. It's just heavy, hard rock music, and their latest is so good. I've been playing this to death, but yeah, they're not going to help themselves with a cover like that for sure.
It's not as heavy as that album
It's not. That's the
makes you
thing.
think.
These albums groove. There's a really cool, like late 60s psychedelic feel. There's this kind of heavy blues rock feel going throughout them all. It's just so good. And they look so awesome because she's so cool looking. And the band
Yeah.
just kicks ass. The guitars are great. The songs are memorable. They groove. I just love them. I'm really pissed because I had an opportunity to go see them a couple months back in New York City, and I didn't go because I'm just not going to New York City for anything for concerts, and that's where they were playing. I should have went, but hopefully they'll continue to come around again, and I'll get a chance to see them. But I'm telling you, folks, they are the real deal. And in a perfect world, if they had another name like I don't know, Sandwich, they would be enormous. That's the
Yeah.
thing because it's so many people like, oh, Lucifer, I'll never listen to them because of that name. Like, oh, really? So, but
Sometimes the only turn off for me, sometimes on certain songs, and this will be a big plus for a lot of your viewers, sometimes they're too catchy for me. Just a
really
little
catchy.
too hooky. That's how hooky they are, guys.
There's hooks everywhere, but there's great guitar riffs and solos, and
Yeah.
it's just yeah. And some of the stuff is darker and spooky. Some of the stuff is just totally like late '60s psychedelic garage pop, right? It's just that they do
Marry it
everything.
all in together so it makes sense. I'll
Yeah, it
tell you,
totally makes sense.
I hang out in the bar with my wife a lot. Sometimes I got to leave to go walk Miley, my dog, because she won't poop in the backyard. So I go walk poopy bags down the street. Have to leave Grace with something on so she doesn't complain because I might be gone 15 minutes. A few weeks ago, I put that new Lucifer on, came back, no complaints. She was down here texting her sister, fine with it on.
There you go.
Enjoy.
See? Yeah, probably should see if Evelyn will get into Lucifer. I don't know if I've ever played them for her, and I don't really
Start
listen
off with
to
the
anything.
catchy songs.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
the
because the
car.
rest of
Got to
yeah,
do it in the car when you're not talking. Keep it on
yeah.
pause. And when you know there's a law in the conversation, hit it. Yeah. You wait for a reaction, like a bad one or a good one.
She tends to just ignore songs she doesn't know.
Uh,
That's the weird thing with her. She's just I don't know. That's why new music I don't even bother half the time. But whatever. All right, and my next one for this round is a band that at first I didn't really care for all that much because in their infant stage, not really my cup of tea. But man, with their like started with their third album and then with their fourth album, I was totally hooked. And to me, they're just a different variation of what I love so much about a band like Dream Theater, but this is totally different. And the band is Between the Buried and Me. So, early albums, much, much more hardcore metalcore type of thing. But, you could tell they had the chops and the songs are pretty heavy and intricate. But man, once they did the Alaska album, all of a sudden I was kind of like, oh, there's some cool clean vocals and lots of hooks, and that guitar playing and the keyboard playing and the drumming is like really technical. And then of course they put out this ridiculous album Colors, which just absolutely blew my mind. And then I got to see them like open up for Dream Theater, and I saw them a headline a couple times, and like they put on like such an amazing show. And it's this really interesting blend of a lot of things I love so much about music: the technicality of prog and prog metal, the ferocity of extreme metal, and then like this theatricality of like bands like, Alice Cooper and even like Emerson, Lake and Palmer or something like that, where every album, every song is like a total adventure. You get bludgeoned to death, then you get this technicality, then you get this fun stuff, right? This little carnival music and whatnot. And I love concept albums, and they love putting out all these concept pieces, and it's just one after another, and then the parallax stuff. And then, for something really different, they do this album Coma Ecliptic, which doesn't really sound like anything else they've ever done. And this is just totally wacky, but it's great. And then they had the balls to follow up their pinnacle album, their, what everybody considers their best and greatest achievement, and they do Colors 2, the sequel. And you know what? Pretty fucking great also. Maybe not as good as the original, but it certainly ain't no Operation Mindcrime 2, I'll tell you that much. But, but yeah, and again, another band that, like, God, how long has it been since this one? It's been a few years. So they're probably due pretty soon. And yeah, I just love them. And go see them live if you just want to be just absolutely amazed. The drummer is ridiculous. The guitar playing is sick. And Tommy, the singer and keyboard player, he's another one. He's just such a unique talent. So yeah, I can see myself listening to Between the Buried and Me as long as I'm alive. So
I got to give them another shot. It's been a long time since I gave them a shot.
love them, love them.
All right, we're gonna move a little bit because I got a lot of shit everywhere. It took me a while to set all this up. Uh, going, I've never seen this band. I planned on it one time, didn't make it, but I do have a Laszlo tradition with them, so that's what got them in. And that is, and I bought this at Rock Fantasy in New York, believe it or not. That is Cadaver.
Oh yes, yeah.
Love me some Cadaver.
That's a
I
great
came
shirt.
in,
Great
I
shirt.
streamed them on Abracadabra, or what? How do they do it? Abra Cadaver, and just such a stupid name. I streamed it, but my first one I bought was Berlin,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and then I went back and got the first two, and blah blah blah. I suppose we went to Pittsburgh 8 years ago, and they were playing a little place. It was upstairs at some little bar, and I said, we're going to go see Cadaver tonight. And we went to like a 1 o'clock Pirates game, and those big beers. It's 1 o'clock. 10 o'clock was a long way off,
It
and
wasn't
Laszlo
happening.
didn't make it. No, barely made it into my hotel room about 10 o'clock, let alone any show. But man, I dropped the ball on that show because I never heard of them coming around anywhere near me since. But I love these guys. They just play 70s hard rock. I mean, look at them. Look
Yeah,
at them. I mean, for crying out loud. They never looked cooler than on this album. For the Dead Travel Fast. I always forget the name of this album. But this one is the tradition. For about 4 years now, this will be the fifth year. I play this on the first day of fall every time, and it just works. And sometimes I'm like at work or at the office, and I'm thinking when I get home I'm going to play that album first day of fall, and I start to get a little excited every year. And I feel like that might be like the only time I play it too, once a year, first day of fall. As much as I like it, when I see it I'm like, I gotta wait till the first day of fall. It's like Christmas when you play it. You don't put up the tree unless it's Christmas, as much as you like the tree. And I always feel like we go into the castle first day of fall, and then when I'm done playing it, we're walking away from the castle, and we will return next fall. It's so weird, I know. But yes, and I love I don't think they have a Rough Times is probably my least favorite, but still pretty good album. So Cadaver, I don't play Cadaver when the wife is hanging out. This is a personal Laszlo thing. But the next one, ho ho ho, it's party time when these guys release a new album in this house. My sister loves them. She has a sticker on the back of her car. My wife loves them. She's seen them a bunch of times with me. I saw them at Rock on the Range on the third stage when they were on their third album. And if you would have told me in 2010, when I got the first album, they'd be playing arenas in 2024, I say, stop being stupid. Stop it. And I might slap you. But then I'd be the one being slapped. I thought this was so cool when it first came out because it's satanic, but it's got melodies and hooks. And I was thinking, you know what? And then at the time when I bought this, my sister-in-law and her husband was lived across the street, and they'd come over on weekends, and we'd be listening to Ghost every weekend. I'd be busting this out, and I always said, if you really wanted to spread the word of Satan to everyone, would you form a death metal band where you're only going to reach a target audience? It's probably, a third of them is already down with Satan. Would you wrap the music up in like this cotton candy type thing and have like people driving to work like soccer moms going, oh, Satan, what the hell am I saying? That's what you would do. And that makes it more evil, you know? So, and I remember I went to a listening party for the second album at a record store, and I was the only one in there. And I was like, whatever, I'm hearing it first, I was the only one. And when I saw them, and okay, so I've seen them in 2013 on the second stage, and and I was right up front, and my wife was like maybe 50 yards behind me because I'll always leave her behind if I feel like the urge to really get up there. And after the show was over, she was talking to someone that she met during the show, and I came over and I said, "Some people find Jesus. I think I just found Satan." It was so good. 2008, 18, the hottest show I was ever at. It was like the dude I went with left because it was so damn hot in that place, but it was great. 2019, I saw him at Sonic Temple again, but now on the main stage in the soccer stadium area, and they were great. And people like to say they're not metal, they're not hard enough, they're pop music. Now where's my Blue Oyster Cult Mirrors album? This ain't that hard either, heavy.
That's not.
So stop being cranky. Just enjoy the damn music, for crying out loud. So there's my next two.
I think some people have it out for Ghost because they were on board with that first album, which is the heaviest thing they ever did.
Yeah, like Aldo.
They never went there again,
No. But we in this house we have played so much Ghost and danced around. Square Hammer.
Oh,
Square Hammer. It's a 4-minute party. It's a 4-minute fraternity party in this house with like 3 of us.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Yeah, I mean, I dig them. I sometimes wonder if they're gonna go too far, but they still every album comes out, and I dig it, and it's like, yeah,
It's too much fun to ignore.
Yeah, it is. Cool. Yeah. So, all right. So where am I going to go next here? Let's go over to a band. Since you just talked recently about a band from Germany, I'm going to talk about a band that's from here, but I think they hang out or live in Germany full time now, I think.
I know where you're going.
Band is called Elder. You know who they are, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Elder's a really interesting band because like they they've got these kind of like different eras where their sound has kind of morphed and changed a bit over the years. But I like all of the eras, and I like where they started, and I really love where they have ended, or not ended, but where they're at now.
Right.
And so yeah, it's Elder. And originally, if you listen to the early records, these are kind of like basically doom records. And then they had a healthy amount of psychedelic elements as well as stoner elements. And then all of a sudden, like with albums like these, they started to get much, much more proggy. And like Lore is an absolutely tremendous album. And then, like with their most recent album, Innate Passage, I mean, to me, they're basically a prog band now, but they're a little more heavier, obviously. But they don't sound like Yes, they don't sound like Genesis or anything like that. They have their own sound, but you could totally tell by the way they create and write riffs and they arrange their music that their sound is rooted in. I mean, I always say whenever I describe Elder, it's like, well, if you combine like I don't know, Volume Four, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Black Sabbath with like classic early '70s Pink Floyd, but with a modern twist. That's kind of what like Elder are all about. And man, their music is so good. And I love like occasionally, like, I'll be listening to the most recent couple albums and I'll put on like one of like the first or the second album and I'll be like, holy shit, this is quite different. And it's just so heavy. And I love bands that like mix, and I guess the older I get, and I've been listening to a lot of this stuff, but I love when bands blend like heavy music and thought-provoking kind of trippy psychedelic music. I think that's just such a nice mix. And these guys throw prog in there as well. I love the vocals. I love the guitar riffing, and but more importantly, I love the atmosphere and this kind of like dreamy sense of their music. That it's heavy, but it kind of gets stuck up in here and just kind of swims around in this thing we call a brain between the two ears, which I think is absolutely captivating. And honestly, I mean, I listen to a lot of bands now in this space, kind of, but I don't really think anybody sounds like Elder, and they don't really sound like anybody else. There's elements here and there, but they're very, very unique. And I think it's just great for them that they're, opening up for Tool. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah.
I was talking to someone recently who saw Tool, and I said, well, that's cool, but how is Elder? That's all I wanted to
Right.
hear. It's like,
Right.
how is Elder? Like, oh, yeah, they were pretty cool, but they just came up there on stage and they didn't even introduce themselves, and
Yeah.
they played
What
like
did
30
they said
minutes,
that?
and they're like,
Yeah.
goodbye. It's like,
Yeah. I saw that too. I forget who said that. Yeah, I got to see them late last year at my favorite place in Columbus, Ace of Cups, which is really small, and I met the lead singer, Nick DeSalvo.
yeah, yeah, nice
Yeah,
guy.
I met him. I told him I'm on Sea of Tranquility. He's like, "Oh yeah, the interview I did." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," and yeah, he was a nice guy, and they were really good,
I can
super
imagine.
good.
Did they
And what
play it?
happens when you take Elder and add Cadaver? You get El Eldevar.
Eldevar. Yeah, that's a great
Yeah,
album.
Eldevar.
Yeah.
So they did an album together. It's a
Yeah,
trippy little album, not very heavy at all, but really cool and Pink Floydy.
very cool. Yeah. And as far as Cadaver goes, they just missed my list of 10. They're probably number 11 or 12. I have just like Jamie, I love them as well.
And Elder missed my list of 10, maybe 11
How
or
cool
12.
is that? So we both got to talk about, yeah, that's cool. That's pretty neat. All right, so let's go with all right, so this I reached out to Jamie when we were putting our list together, and I was part of me felt bad including this band because they are a newish band. They haven't been around all that long, but they're comprised of dudes that we know from way back. I mean, that's so, but they
Counts.
count because it is a new band. If it falls within the guidelines, they had to have started releasing albums post 2000, and and we have to love them. And quite frankly, I love Black Country Communion. Yeah, it's got Glenn Hughes, right? He's been around a million years from Deep Purple and Trapeze and Black Sabbath and solo stuff and blah, blah, blah. It's got Derek Sherinian from God who's played with everybody, Sons of Apollo and Dream Theater and so on and so forth. You got Jason Bonham, you got Joe Bonamassa, right? So they're people we know, people we love, but man, this is such a great band because they do, to me, they are a throwback to all those great 70s bluesy heavy rock bands like Deep Purple, like Free, like Bad Company, like all the bands that we always talk about. That's what they are like, and I love Joe Bonamassa as a guitar player. I love hearing him play more rock based stuff. I love his blues stuff too. I'm a huge Glenn Hughes fan. I think he sounds terrific on here. It's great to hear Jason Bonham doing this type of thing as well, and I think Derek Sherinian just adds that little extra little bit of magic to any band that he plays with. I just wish these guys would tour more because I honestly, if these guys would play live more off or at all, I mean, they play like one-off shows here and there, and if they would record together a little more often, they would be my favorite band of any
Wow.
active of an active band. I truly believe that. So yeah, so I think that I will be listening to these guys for for forever, and we got a new album coming out from them soon, so that's really cool. And I hope I get to see them live one of these days because they don't play live much at all. So, but yeah, Black Country Communion, absolutely, it had to be in this list, even though it's kind of cheating just a little bit.
Well, in my honorable mentions, I have something quite the opposite, where a guy was in a band in the 90s and then went solo in the 2000s. I didn't want to include him because of that, so I put him in my honorable mentions. You might be able to figure out who that is. My first concert after COVID, after going a couple years without a show, was Dead Daisies. So that was the only time I've ever seen Glenn Hughes. He strikes me as a guy who doesn't realize how old he really is.
I
Like
don't
if
think
you
he does.
told him, he'd go, "No, I'm not. Stop that nonsense."
Yeah.
you know.
I think honestly, because I know he's a pretty spiritual guy, I know that Glenn probably knows that he's very lucky to be here today.
Yeah.
And, because if you haven't read his autobiography, folks, I'm surprised he's still alive after what he put himself through for all those years. But what's amazing to me, and maybe it's because he was living in like this drug-induced stupor for over a decade and didn't really play live all that much, his voice has held up like no other guy in his age group. And that's just amazing to me. I mean, what he can do on stage, I've seen him a couple times in recent years. I'm just amazed at how well he sings to this day, and I didn't, the before then, the only time I had ever seen him was on the Black Sabbath Seven Star tour. I got to see one of the like three shows he actually sang, and he was awful, like one of the worst vocal performances I've ever seen. So the fact that now, and that was shit 35 plus years ago, the fact that now he's singing like he did when he was in his 20s in the 70s is pretty mind blowing
Yeah.
considering all he's
No
been through.
gut or anything. He's like slim,
Yeah, looks great. Hair, it just looks
got the hair. From afar, you're
tasteful.
like, oh, what's that? Like a 30-year-old singing? You
Yeah,
get closer and you're like, oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. He's a freak of nature for sure.
All right. My next one is if you call them doom metal, they might be my favorite doom metal. Again, newer band. How can it be your favorite? Candlemass. Sorry. Um, And in 2016, they released an album, and it's probably one of my favorite metal albums of all time, even though it came out in 2016. And I have a lot of shirts. This one has cat hair on it, but that's all right. There's one. I've seen them at twice. I've only seen them twice. There's their second album. They played Psycho Vegas in 2021, and I pretty much I kept waiting for them to come to Ace of Cups. Come to Ace of Cups. Come to, because it's just made for that type of band. I'm like, you gotta hit. They never would, so I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to them. I flew all the way to Vegas basically to see their 50-minute set. I mean, I finally got to see Danzig for the first time too. So, but they were a big reason why I flew all the way to Vegas. And there's my favorite.
Yeah.
That's the one I got in Vegas right there. So we only made 100 of these. Okay. Oh God. Buy now. I hope people didn't buy 99 and 100 while I'm cashing out. Stupid. But their album Hunted is just up there for me. What's amazing is I had a very small vinyl collection when I bought this, and they were all like things that I bought in the 70s and 80s. My disco Mickey Mouse and some Kiss albums and stuff, maybe an Iron Maiden. And I bought this on vinyl. I'm like, the hell with it. I'm going to buy it on vinyl instead of CD, see how this works out. And that was 2016. Well, as you can see, it started, and there's more vinyl in there. And under the bar, under the computer I'm talking on right now, and in that corner, it all started with this. So this was the wick that started that big bang. And but and when I saw him in Vegas too, I remember just first of all, I found a $50 bill on the floor. I'm like, whoa, free beer with while I watch Chemist. And we all had to put our masks back on because it was like the second wave of COVID hitting. I was so bummed out. So there's a picture of me with a mask on at the show, but it was still great. And then when we saw them with Mastodon and Opeth, yeah, exactly. That's what we were doing. But you know what? I mean, pretty much during the like 7 songs in, everybody's kind of got the mask under the chin type thing working anyways. So, but then I saw them with Mastodon and Opeth, and that was such a great show. And I was so happy I had to go to Cleveland for that one. That they were there with those three. I'm like, oh my God, this is like a little mini Woodstock for me. Opeth, Mastodon, and Chemist. If Opeth would have started after 20 or 2000, they'd be in this list right now.
Yeah, for sure. Oh,
At
yeah.
number one.
Yeah.
So yeah, Chemist. There's some black metal vocals in some of the songs, but they last for like 30 seconds. If you can get past that, man, you're gonna enjoy some metal. Traditional mixed with doom. My next one is a band that maybe not everyone is going to enjoy. I gave Louis Nasser one of these guys' album for album homework assignment, and I think he liked one song, but he liked it a lot. I know Louis a little better now in his taste. I think I would have given him something else to listen to, but hell with it. I only have one T-shirt for Murder by Death. And you're like, Murder by Death? Are they a death metal band? That's what I thought when I first heard the name, because I was listening to the new another honorable mention. I totally forgot about Coheed and Cambria. I was watching a new song for Coheed and Cambria, and I was reading the comments on YouTube, and someone said, "This comes out the first day of Murder, or same day as Murder by Death." I'm like, "Oh, that must be death metal." And then I Googled them or YouTubed them, and I'm like, "This sounds like Johnny Cash." It's a mixture of like Johnny Cash mixed with Soundgarden, mixed with spaghetti western. They're so cool that I don't know where to put them. I put them under alternative, but the first time I saw them, I got that T-shirt. And then I hung out with the band backstage and we all got wasted. Me, Grace, and this band that I just found out about like maybe 4 months before I saw them live. And they signed my CD. They gave me a pick. And we closed the bar, me and the band. And back then in 2010, it was kind of cool. Now I meet bands after the show all the time. That was like the first time we felt like special, like we're VIPs. Speaking of which, I saw them in an old church that they turned into a club here in Columbus, and they closed the damn bathrooms. Like when there's people still in there, a ton of people. I'm like, you can't close the bathrooms. I gotta pee. There's nowhere to go outside. You want me to pee on the side of the building? You're not going back there to use the bathrooms. I gotta go. Well, Sarah, the chick that plays cello for the band, I've hung out with her a few times after shows, and I always had a little crush on her, and my wife knew, and she understood because she's a cool chick. My wife and Sarah, and I remember, oh God, I remember that show. I told her, I said, this is like the third or fourth time we've hung out. You probably don't remember, so I'm just a fan to you, but to me, you're a friend. So,
You actually said that to
anyway,
her?
anyways, when we had to pee, she's like, come backstage. You can use our bathroom, for crying out loud. So we went backstage with her and the security was there. She's like, they're with us. And I'm like, yeah, we're VI. It's because I had to pee. So all kinds of stupid stories with these bands. That's what gets, like I said, gets you into the DNA. And I'm supposed to see them this summer. But get this. We're going to Lionel Richie on a Thursday, bringing the wife. Friday, we got off. Saturday, we're supposed to drive to Cleveland to see the Stones. And then Sunday's Murder by Death. I'm
Wow.
going to be murdered by death, I swear to God. So, and I
Yeah.
just bought this yesterday. Look, I already have the 12-inch. This is like 2 10 inches. Okay, whatever. I'll buy it. It's there. It's in my hand. So yeah, Murder by Death. They were the soundtrack probably 2010 to 2020,
Wow.
19.
Okay.
We saw them all throughout that decade. And we played them to death at the bar. And that's my kid.
So you got Stones tickets, huh? Yeah, I'm not going to bother this time around. I saw them the last time they came around, and they were great, but I didn't have a good time. I don't
Yeah,
like
that's what
those
someone else
big
told me when
stadiums.
I have always had such a good time seeing the Stones. And my favorite sentence to say every time that the Stones are in town, I just love saying that sentence. I've said it like 4 or 5 times because I
I
sit in a
love them. I love seeing them. I just don't like seeing bands in huge
theater.
stadiums anymore because
Oh yeah.
I don't like the way people act anymore at these big stadium shows. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
You know,
The stage is so big though that I kind of get absorbed into the stage show as well. And I just have a blast. You know what? Maybe I've drank enough where I'm one of the people that would be annoying you at the Stone.
that could very well be, my friend.
The
That could.
last one I was very well behaved, like about 4 years ago. We just kind of sat there.
Yeah, for the last time I saw it,
Yep.
it started out in the parking lot beforehand and it continued all throughout the rest of the evening. Like everybody that we came into contact with, I was just like, I hate you. You're in my way. You're bothering me. You're annoying me. You're acting like a jerk. Why did I come
Yeah.
to the show? And I'm trying to concentrate on the band, right? It's just like,
Yeah, I've actually been well behaved at every. I wasn't too hammered at any. Even when I'm hammered, I'm the only reason I'd be a pain in your ass if I'm hammered is because I got to get up and pee. Excuse me. That's the only reason.
all right. You mentioned these guys a couple minutes ago, and they absolutely were one of the first ones that I thought about for this list because I think they're great and they've put out now consistently so many really great albums. And for me, it started with their Leviathan album, which was really something different and fresh at the time. And, it's Mastodon, of course. And originally early on, what were they like? Kind of like a sludge band, right? Kind of, I guess, which
Yeah, with
what the hell is
a little bit
sludge?
rougher and around the collar though.
Yeah, right. But then all of a sudden they started to get like really proggy and all of a sudden they're delivering this kind of music that's called prog metal, but they don't sound anything like Dream Theater or Fate's Warning or Queensryche or any of those other bands that we associate with prog metal. This is something way different. And like you said, it's a little rough and raw, but technical and brutal all the same. And so many good albums. And you got some concept albums here. You got some that are a little more straightforward. You got amazing guitar playing, a couple different guys singing. The drummer is off the chains, just so good. And they're really good live too. I've seen them live numerous times. They always put on a good performance. And again, another one of those bands like when you hear that little oh, there's a Mastodon album coming out, everybody's like oh,
Yeah,
right, big time with
there's a
these.
sparkle in the air.
Yes, yes, big time with these guys. And I
They dropped
remember
a new single. Did you hear the single? And then that kind of gives you an idea of the direction they might be taking on the album.
exactly. Yep, yep. And they tend to not release too many early singles, which is pretty cool. And now that I think about it, this was 2021. So we might be due soon, right?
Yeah.
Might be due soon. And I know there's some people who are down on them a little bit right now because one of their members like made fun of Judas Priest, not that long ago.
Oh,
And
I didn't hear about that.
yeah, that's whatever. I tend not to listen when rock stars make statements about other bands or about politics and all that shit. I don't really care because you know what? We all have our opinions. Everybody spews their opinions about everything, so they're no different. I just know if I like their music, I like their music. I don't care what they do in their free time. I don't care what they say, unless they tell me that I completely suck or something like that, then I might
I,
be, yeah, fuck you. I'm not listening to you anymore. But for the most part, I mean, I love their albums, and I think honestly, other than like maybe one album, which I don't think is a classic, all the rest of them are really, really strong and just absolutely excellent. So yeah, that's another band that they're already classic in my opinion. All right, so why do I only have three? How many we have left? We should let's
I
two.
got two more.
Oh, it's because I'm doing one more now. That's right. Okay, because I was just sitting there looking. I'm like, why do I have three left? Because I have one more to go in this round. That's why.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go. Speaking of prog metal, let's go with Haken. Of course, to me, they are the band that, if Dream Theater ever decides that they've kind of had enough and they're going to call it a day, I think Haken will be able to carry the torch. I think they're already kind of doing it. Accessible stuff. It's heavy, so it's prog metal, but it's not like really, really metallic. So some people say, well, they're just a prog band. They've got like albums that are grouped that have like a certain sound. So like you've got, these three albums, which are kind of a little bit more forward thinking, a little bit more aggressive. You got the early stuff, which is definitely very much, prog mixed with like Dream Theater. You got what I consider their absolute classic in the Mountain, and I will recommend this to anybody as a first listen who has never heard this band before. And then their last album, which just came out fairly recently, I think is an absolute masterpiece. They've got a
I
singer
might
that
recommend
doesn't sound
that
like
as the first.
you like this one.
Yeah, the new one.
Yeah, it's amazing. And they're amazing musicians. The guitar playing, the keyboard playing is off the charts. The drumming is great. And then you got the vocalist who doesn't sound like anybody else. It's got a very, very unique style. Their songs are catchy, they're heavy, they're complicated. There's some cool like pop moments from time to time. I think they've got it all. I mean, I think that they, out of any prog metal band, and I'm including Dream Theater here, I think the one band that I can see like getting some level of success above just the underground, which all these bands really are for the most part. I think it's Haken, and they don't sound overly, English. They definitely have a very appealing sound. They could be coming from anywhere. You could say they're American, you could say they're British, you could say they're Australian, whatever. It's their own sound. It's not like rooted in a specific region or anything. And yeah, I absolutely love them. And what's really cool, and I saw them live for the first time opening up for Symphony X a couple of years ago, and they were amazing. Like now they're out on their own tour headlining. It's like, who would have thought that, right? That they can go out and play places that, can seat maybe 500 or 1,000 here in the States. I think that's very, very cool. So I think they have a bright future ahead of them, even though they've been around for a while now. So yeah, that's my next selection.
Name another 32 times, and they could catch up to your Dream Theater. How many times you've seen Dream Theater?
Oh, yeah, a lot. I'll probably
I
be going
think
to see him again.
I think a lot of like alternative rock fans would get into Haken too. Like if you like Radiohead, I think that wouldn't be a big jump for you at all.
Yeah, it's a bit heavier, but yeah, there's
Yeah,
some elements that I think will appeal to fans of Radiohead and bands like other bands like that.
right. This next one, uh, big band in our lives here, even though they broke up. But I have a feeling I've been saying it better happen in the next 2 to 3 years, or it probably won't happen. But I've been saying for a little while now, I think the Sword is going to get back together one of these days. I mean, somebody's going to call someone and say, "Hey, what have you been doing the last 3.5 years?" Nothing. Me neither. Why did we break up?
Yeah.
And I just feeling that, I said the same thing about Soundgarden too, and I was right. So I just eventually. So I don't know. Last time I saw him was on the used, what is it called? Used Future? Yes, Used Future tour. A lot of people were down on this record, but I kind of dug it and got the baseball jersey. Uh, Grace and I have played the Sword to death in this house. We have seen them. How many times have I seen them? I saw them in 2012 by myself with Gypsy Hawk. And they literally blew not the roof, but the wall off the place because they had garage doors and it was cold, but they had to open the garage doors because there was just too much everything. There was just too much rock and roll in there. They had to open the doors and let some of it out. They were so good. And I met them and I bought their hot sauce and they signed my hot sauce, even though it's rubbing off over the years. And I bought this beanie cap there that I still have.
Nice.
Then I saw them in 2013 on Rock and Range on the second stage. They're really good. 2016, we saw them with Opeth. Not their night. Not their night, but that will happen. And then my wife was like, "What happened to the Sword? They sucked. They're over. I don't want to see them again." Then I dragged her to see them at 2018 in a place called Scully's here, and they rocked. My wife was like, "Okay, they're back. They're back." And then we went to Vegas. Psycho. That was another band I wanted to see when we went to Vegas for Psycho Vegas, and we saw them. I said this when we ranked the albums. We saw them standing in a pool. They were on a stage that was like 10 to 15 feet high, and the crowd was in a pool with water up to here. So when everyone was dancing around, it was just everyone's splashing, everyone's dancing, everybody's drinking. The water's coming up and into your beer, and you're drinking the pool water with people's smelly feet in it and the beer, and you don't care. You're just rocking out. It was so much fun. And I also got this signed, my favorite
Nice.
album, Apocryphon. I always have to spell it out. It's not something that I just remember.
Yeah.
And this album, one of my favorite albums to come out in the last 20 years. I remember the first time I heard it, I said, "This is my new Super Unknown." I wasn't too far off. I love Super Unknown, one of my favorite albums of all time, but I'm not too far off with that one. So yeah. And then when I bought Warp Riders, now this is 2000. When did Warp Riders come out? 2010. So I was only 40. I was just out of my 30s. And I said this before on a ranking show, but 1,000 people watched that. We'll probably get a few more thousand for this one. So I'm 40 years old. I'm in line at Best Buy when Best Buy sold CDs, and I
Yeah.
got my Sword CD. I'm like all excited, and I'm still thinking I'm naive as hell, thinking rock and rolls for the young, rock and rolls for kids, and I'm still young. And then this woman's behind me with her little daughter, and she looks at my CD and goes, "Oh, look, honey, he's buying the CD Grandpa wants." The fuck, man. And
Uh,
that was like a moment for me in time where I'm like, rocks for old people. God damn it. And I got lumped into the old people brackets. I'm a fucking bitch. So yeah, that was a moment that I wish never happened.
well, it does make for a good story.
Yes. And my last one before my honorable mentions is one you mentioned, and that is a band I seen in 2015, 2018, 2019 with Coheed and Cambria. 2021, Psycho Vegas. What a great time that was. I'm just realizing it's Psycho Vegas. And I'll tell you what, it's Mastodon. And then I saw him in 2022 with Opeth and Chemist. That 2022 show put all the other shows to shame. Holy hell, were they on fire?
Well, it's an amazing lineup. I'm sure that they brought out the best in each other, you know.
Yes, yes. And here's the first shirt from the first tour I ever saw. This shirt is like the most durable shirt I ever bought. It stayed black for years and it still looks good. I mean, for being as old as it is, what is it, a decade old? I'd still wear this to a show and look pretty good in it. Um, but I also have Mastodon hot sauce that I bought at a show, ordered pizza before they came on and was putting it on the pizza. Just stupid things I remember like that. This shirt's really badass though. I
Yeah.
got it at the chemist Opeth one
Yeah.
with the big fucking snake. I saw them on Crack the Sky anniversary tour where they did the whole album Crack the Sky. Did you see that one? That
No.
was that was so good. And I tell you what, when I bought Blood Mountain, I thought I was taking a I didn't really listen to much extreme metal, and I felt like this was extreme. I'm like, what are you doing, Laszlo? This is a little heavy. Uh-oh. And then when Crack the Sky came out, it wasn't as heavy, it wasn't as, more proggy. This reminded me in 2009, there are there are a few Dark Side of the Moons out there still that are going to still be made in rock history. Rock history ain't done yet. There's still some masterpieces coming out, and I think I just bought one.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Yes. As much as I like this one, once more around the sun, I think it's just more fun, and I play it more often. That's probably like this is their best album. That's probably my favorite. So yeah, I seen them 5 times. I got 5 T-shirts. Which one do I wear the most? My least favorite, because I don't care if it gets fucked up. I don't like this one that much, so I wear it the most.
It's pretty cool though. Yeah.
It's still pretty cool though. And honorable mentions. A guy I said that he started his solo career in the 2000s, but he was in Porcupine Tree. But I mean, Steven Wilson, Hand Cannot Erase, The Raven That Refused to Sing. Does it get much more classic than
Yeah.
those albums? No. This band, another one kind of like Bell Witch, got to be in the mood. Again, I met the lead singer, got my picture taken with him.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, they're classic to a certain group of people out there. People will, you know,
By the
call
way,
them.
Jamie and Karen and I will be reviewing their catalog in the not too distant future, so stay tuned for that.
I was hoping we do it in the winter because listening to those all those albums in the summer, I'm not gonna be sitting by the pool going,
Well,
no.
the rate that these months go by so fast. By the time we actually go and get that on the schedule, it'll be November already. So yeah,
Like you, Elder.
yeah, that's a great shirt.
This one, probably number 11. And I love the new track that just came out. I will not listen to the second single they've released because I only do one track and then I go into the album. I don't want to, like you, listen to the whole fucking album before the album's out.
Yeah.
All there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I just
Yeah.
have one. Yeah.
Kind of doomy, but their new stuff is like, I don't know, shoegazy? I
Yeah,
don't know.
kind of
Like
weird. It's
Pink
like
Floyd.
they're doing the elder thing a little bit, I think, you know. So
Yeah, they're changing. They said like Peter Gabriel was an influence on the new album, so they're going a different direction. And this is a band that I would say Legend by Witchcraft is one of my favorite albums from the last 20 years as well. I've never seen them live. The Me and Grace play that. I can play. I can't play any other Witchcraft album other than this when I'm with Grace, and we play it a lot. So I mean, they're just right outside. They're all tied for 11. Everything here.
Yeah, they just missed my top 10 as well. I love Witchcraft. I think they're great. All right. So yeah, like I said, I'm not really doing these in any order. So this band is from Norway. Gino surprise. Pete talks a lot about Norway these days. And you know, I get a lot of people who ask me, it's like, well, Pete, we know you love the 70s Prague Giants, but can you recommend a band that's been around like for a lot less, that they're fairly new, but still play that classic sound? And I'm like, yeah, I can. The band is called Wobbler.
Yeah,
They're
band I
incredible.
need to get into. What I heard, I liked.
Yeah, they're amazing. It all basically started off with Hinterland. I saw them live when they released this album. It's the only time I've seen them. It's not like they come over here often at all. And I saw them at obviously a Prague festival. And man, they take like the best of bands that I love, like Genesis and Yes and King Crimson and ELP and the Italian bands, and it's this kind of pastoral, complicated, lengthy song, mellotrons and Hammond organ, electric piano and Rickenbacker bass and acoustic and electric guitar and vocals that kind of sound like John Anderson. And it just gives you the warm and fuzzies for everything that is like 50 years ago. And every album to me is a drop dead classic. Like I have a hard time even picking which one of these I like the most. They're all great. Like I said, long songs, never boring. Around every corner there's some mellotron or a Hammond organ or this kind of little Rickenbacker bass thing. It gives me everything I love about the classic stuff, and yet it's new. So yeah, I adore them. I think they're just absolutely amazing. And my last pick is a no-brainer. Also, this was one of the first bands I thought about when we were going to do this, and I love 70s bluesy hard rock. One of my favorite types of music. I like lots of types of music. I love 70s prog. I love 80s metal. I mean, all that kind of stuff. But I just love like heavy music from the 70s. And Rival Sons just scratches that itch. Bad Company and Led Zeppelin and the Stones and all that sort of thing. A great singer, Jay Buchanan. I mean, he's like the second coming of Paul Rogers. Just punchy, short, bluesy, hard rock songs, anthems everywhere you turn, fuzz guitar. I mean, the guitar player he's just so good. And some of these albums are just like masterpieces, just absolute masterpieces. Catchy songs, more melancholy songs like their new album. They've got the two new albums actually, Lightbringer and Dark Fighter. And, if you love like Janis Joplin, that sort of stuff, there's stuff like that. Obviously, not with a female singer. It just takes you back in time. Like I listen to some of this new stuff and I'm like, God, it's like 1970 all over again. Love the production on these albums. And they're really good live. I've seen them live and they carry themselves like rock stars. And again, another one of those bands. And I know you're not a big fan, but I don't understand how like Rival Sons aren't enormous. I just literally don't understand because they've got songs that could be hit singles. They put out albums for people who like and appreciate the album era. And like I said, if you love the classics like Zeppelin and Bad Company and Free and you know all those great bands from the 70s, you get it all here. And I think even for like stoner rock fans, because there's so much fuzz going on in their music too, you get a little bit of that as well. But then they do like the bluesy, gospely type stuff from time to time. Yeah, just a wonderful band. Every album is a classic to me. And yeah, that kind of finishes my main list.
They're not huge because they don't. Younger people, mate. Not as many younger people are getting into them.
I
The
guess.
target audience is probably people over 45, and a lot of those
Yeah.
people don't listen to new music. So, but when they do, they love them. So they're probably just about as big as, yeah, because of the target audience that
Yeah,
those
but
bands.
what I don't understand, Jamie, is like, and again, maybe they don't have the marketing machine behind them, but Greta Van Fleet is not all that different from what these guys
Yeah.
are doing. But maybe because Greta is younger, a lot younger that
Yeah.
they're like, oh, this teeny bopper
My age. Yeah.
that's yeah, because Rival Sons exactly they're a little bit older. So yeah, I think that's what it is. But I don't know. I really wish that folks who are in the 45 and older bracket who were so like dead set against listening to new bands, I really wish they would listen to Rival Sons because it gives you all the things that you love about all the classic bands, but it's new and it's fresh. So I got some honorables, so I just want to kind of breeze through them real quick. Night Demon. I'm going to mention some bands that are in this new wave of traditional heavy metal who I think are absolutely terrific. I love Night Demon. I love Enforcer. How about Haunt? I dig them a lot as well. From Norway, progressive metal slash power metal band Communic. Epica. Love Epica doing that symphonic metal, what do you call it? Beauty and the Beast type of thing. Love them. Magic Pie from Norway, another prog band from Norway, almost made my list. Pagan's Mind. I had Witchcraft on my list. Seventh Wonder, another progressive metal band. Obscura, the great technical death metal band. I had Graveyard. I had Cadaver. I've got Uncle Ass and the Den Beats, who are just great, kind of spooky, poppy stoner metal band. King Buffalo, another psychedelic band. Nea Biliviscaris, great symphonic progressive death metal band. Transatlantic, they
Are you
just
going to forget one? I keep waiting for you to say this one. I wonder if you're forgetting them.
I got more. Hold on. Agusa from Sweden, cool prog band. George Joe from Norway. Sienna Root from Sweden, who I think were absolutely terrific, playing good like classic rock type stuff. Cats in Space from the UK, great AOR melodic rock. This band almost made my list. I felt really bad about not putting them on the list. I love Alter Bridge. I'm not a huge Queen fan, Creed fan, but I love Alter Bridge. I think they're so good.
Them
Uh,
and Rival Sons have the same kind of tone in guitar and voice for me, and that's why I don't like
Really? Because I don't think the guitars
don't like
sound
it.
anything alike between those two
They
bands.
don't.
No, I think Alter Bridge is much more metal guitars.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just me, maybe. The Aristocrats, love them. Green Lung, I think, is really cool. And I think the
Yeah.
band that you were waiting for me to mention is Earthless.
Yes.
There you go.
When you
Yeah.
went over when you went past all the stoner rock bands and went into like power metal, I'm like, I think he forgot Earthless.
Now they're right there as well. To me, Earthless, I love them. Their music is just so jammy and just so spontaneous though. I love them. I wanted to pick because I know they're like not everybody can like Earthless. I mean, that's just I absolutely love them because when I want to just hear ferocious like guitar jams, there ain't nobody better. And I think Isaiah Mitchell is an incredible guitar player. So yeah, I think just the fact that I'm mentioning them is
Yeah.
gives them a lot of the support they think they deserve. I had the Sword on my list as well, and I had Blood Ceremony on my list also. So yeah, a lot.
Oh
There's
yes, I have
way
Blood
more.
Ceremony also on my
Yeah.
honorable mentions.
There's so many others, but yeah, I just, those are the ones that I think I listen to all the time and I think are just truly outstanding bands that I think, well, I will always be listening to them. And I await any new release from them with bated breath. I get all excited. So,
And early moods, I got my eye on you for the future, and a band that I've been listening to only since December. But my God, every album except their first two, the three after that are so good. I've been calling them Saturna, but they're actually Saturna, and it reminds me of that Sword album cover. And I've
yeah,
just
that's a
been
cool cover.
digging these guys so much that I could see them possibly in 10 years being something that I would call classic to me.
Yeah, I tried hard not to like I'm sitting there looking at the new Whom Gods Destroy album, which is I love, it's terrific, but I'm like they just released their first album. And there's a
Yeah,
lot of bands like that have only been around like
yeah,
2 or 3 years and they have an album, maybe two out. I tried not to put them on there because they're not there yet, right?
right.
Maybe
But I got my eye on
10 years. Yeah. Like if we go from like in a couple of years, whatever, we go from 2010 and on, then we can talk about those kind of bands. But yeah, there's so many good ones. I think the
from
more
the old age home.
what's that?
From the old age home, we can do
Yeah.
that in
I'll
and
be
the
sitting
nerds
here in my one
will
room
start
and
wheeling us away. You've had enough time with your online friend. He has to go now.
I could just picture myself like in 25 years from now, if I make it that far, I'm sitting in like an assisted living place and I have my room and it's
Yeah.
just like, my wife and I are in this room and there's nothing, there's no furniture and all there is are CDs like all around us and a couple chairs and a bed, right? That's it. And like,
Right.
it's like, what? Would you couldn't get rid of those? Nope, not getting rid of those. Like, do you even listen to them anymore? I try. I just got
Right.
to have them with me. So what am I gonna do with all this stuff, right? So yeah. Uh, but yeah, this good bands, classic bands that are now making music or have been making music since 2000. So if you've never listened to any of these groups, we highly recommend you go and check them out and let us know what you think down in the comments below.
Now
And
I can start drinking.
there you go. There you go. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I had one beer last night on my Friday night, so I
Sit out
hope
on the deck. Oh, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to go sit out on the deck and I'm going to play my playlist for the day is going to be these type of bands.
there you go. That sounds good. Cool. So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also down below, we got the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, and our Cameo page. Thank you in advance for all your support there. And thanks for sticking with me for the last couple of days through the new roof being put in. We haven't had one bang or hammer in this whole time we've been taping, which is good. So I think they might be done. I don't know. I don't hear anything outside. They were outside having lunch before, so we'll see. Anyway, for Jamie, Laszlo, I'm Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching us on this special episode of SOT. We'll see you tomorrow for ranking the albums. I will be ranking the albums of Mr. Steve Vai. So it's coming up tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Take care, everybody. Bye.